Welcome back to the Positively Negative podcast,
where we talk about life, love, and the pursuit of positivity in a world that can be quite negative. I'm Dalio.
And I'm Tim Humble, and we're glad you're here. Hello, good morning.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are we here?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I'm not. I need a mic.
Okay.
That's always like, hello.
Wow, good morning.
It is Thursday.
Yes. I don't know. We should do a count of what podcasts we are. I can't hear myself, but like if you can, I'm not bothered.
Okay.
Por favor.
Do you have sound now?
I have sounds.
Professional
sounding time. Yeah, we should do a count of what number this is, because I'm curious if we're coming up to 100 or not.
No, we're nowhere near that.
Come on.
No, nowhere near that. No.
Dreams?
No.
Well, all right. We're here. It is don't know what day it is, but we did some notes and we had some talks this week, and I want to talk about them again with you.
Okay, let's do that.
Wow. Okay. No, I think well, it started with like a quick trip into town the other day, and we sat down for a late breakfast. You went off to get coffee, and these two people were speaking, like having this conversation next to me, and I was like I don't want to say it, but I felt so disgusted by it, not because of what they were talking about, but just because it felt like it was such a waste of time. And I was forced in that moment to confront the fact that I'm extremely judgmental when it comes to time.
Right.
So, and that's funny for me, because if you were to ask me, like, do you consider yourself a judgmental person? I don't give a damn what anybody does.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah.
And it's something that I so, like, grew up around.
Yeah.
Like in the church and around religious people, that I'm always hyper aware of never being that way. But I really, really am when it comes to what I consider a waste of time, and when I see people using their. Can I just narrate what's happening now? Phil's got the WD-40 out, and he's applying it to his squeaky chair.
Well, you're saying about using and applying time.
Maybe this is a great application of time.
I mean, we always talk about, like, fixing things, so why not fix it live?
Wow.
You know?
Sounds good, actually.
Sounds better now, right?
Yeah, leave that out, because I'll fix the
it's
the trolley.
I think it's for when I actually sit
when
down on the thing, yeah.
Well,
it was 10 quid, so what do you expect? It was, yeah. I agree with you. Time is precious. I think the older I get, the more I realise that my definition of what I think wasting time looks like is interesting. I think we do a lot of things in life to keep ourselves mentally focused and stable, and we're quite happy sometimes to expel time just because we need to tread through it to get to the next place. Be it more educated about our relationship with time, or to step through something because we want to explore it and are intrigued by it. But I just there's just so many things in the world that you can do and be part of and see.
Yeah.
That why would you I feel like it's a limiting yourself by not giving yourself permission to explore that stuff. And I don't know if it's friends, or if it's relationships, or if it's other people, or if it's just sheep culture or safety, or whatever it is for certain people. Is like people need to either belong to something or need to be, empowered or like inspired or constantly cosseted, little tap on the back or whatever. I don't know what that comes down to. Maybe it's an internal need, or it's just a human condition. It's just my brain. Maybe it's computers have done this to me, and it seems very emotionless, but it honestly isn't. Is that there's just so much that you can potentially do as a human being.
Yeah, well, I totally agree. Like, from the mystical standpoint of that same sentiment, which is like, what are the odds that you were born a human being on planet Earth? Then multiply that times the odds of being a human being on planet Earth with the internet. Like, that's all. Those are all the building blocks you need to give me to be like, there was a comedian who once was saying, like, they overheard somebody say they were bored. And it was like, you're bored?
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time. I mean, aside from being a kid where you don't have, like, access to your own choice of what you do with time, how could you be bored in life?
But you don't question those things as a kid because you think time's unlimited.
Yeah,
And
sure.
And I think as I've got older, it's like, you know, not that I'm in charge of my time because time just runs through your hands like sand, but there's something ethereal that happens when you do that on the beach with sand. It's funny how the correlation goes to time when you put it, you know, like, and it's funny also that computers, CPUs, are made from sand. It's like, what the fuck? It's like some kind of big connection, some kind of big,
we're all from the ocean.
There's some kind of interesting silicon time matrix thing there, you know, like to take, who was it who decided that I was going to turn sand into I guess they just did some testing in terms of how it held capacity or something. I have no idea, but I mean, and so in the same notion, like sand, if you don't form a proper like cup in your hand, will fall through the cracks. And so for me, like activities, people, life, skills, talents, money, career, relationships, they fall through the cracks sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like it's interesting how people will almost flock together with other people to feel safe. You know. Yeah. But also then the topics never go outside of that. It's kind of like,
and like that's what really struck me, and I really don't mean to sound like this.
It was two women. It was two women, right?
Yeah, it was just two women, and they were having this conversation about like, yeah, Johnny called me last week, and he wants to know if I'm still with Rory, and then Rory called, and like I just don't have time, and like da 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 da, and ba 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 ba. And when I hear people speak that way, my brain does this thing where it sounds like the teacher from Charlie Brown, where it's like blah 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 blah, and I'm like, and I don't know, I sound like such a biatch, just like criticizing these people, but it wasn't a criticism like, oh, I'm better than them, I don't have conversations like that, I talk about important things, but it was about the contrast struck me of what other people use their brain cycles for.
Yeah, right.
That's different from what I use mine.
Right.
And this is not, like I said, holier than thou, because I use my brain cycles for brawl wars, like, and video games and other things that they might think are stupid and a waste of time in their eyes. So, see, I know it is subjective to a level, but I've never felt like I've kind of feel okay with this type of being judgmental. Like we coined this term, the Temporal Ethics Committee, because I think that if there's one thing you should be responsible for in this life, it's time. And maybe just even being aware of how you spend it is the first step, without even changing anything. I think a lot of people, like you were saying, because of safety and because of those things, I think those are driving human things, but I think 99% of people are not even aware, and so it's just like what you fall into. They're not consciously making the choices to do and say certain things and live their lives a certain way. Maybe
it's an educational thing as well, because if they had basic, I mean, I don't know, they've probably got like Facebook, mobile phone. I mean, one of them was on mobile phone, she was on Facebook, I think, but I think having the tools for the job as well. It's not like coming out of school and then learning to be an electrician or a plumber or like a service industry person where you just like wake up every morning, you get in your van, you go to the job. Like, I think with computer and digital people is that they're multi-threaded, right? A bit like the computer itself. They're like into a bit of that, into a bit of that, into a bit of that, and that kind of forms their decision making. Like, oh, I'm interested in that, but like I'm going to do a bit of research into this coffee, and it's like, I'm not going to use that coffee anymore because this plant, you know, this place over here had this like scandal and and that I'm not into their ethics anymore. Like you end up processing lots of bits of data, and maybe a lot of people just don't.
Yeah, maybe.
But I'm not mad at them. I mean, like, we need your average Joe in the street to go to Poundland to keep the economy, the GDP. You know, if Johnny Boy needs to buy 100 packs of £1 like tea bags every week, if that's his thing, because he's flipping them on the local market stall, that's a life. That's his time. Like, as far as he's concerned, he's, you know, flipping it, making money, whatever. But I think I think technology has fundamentally changed the way I interact with the world and people, and arrogantly so, selfishly so, maybe, but it's my pursuit of wanting to explore time and life and all of its facets.
Yeah.
And there is a fallout for that, and the fallout from that is this almost self-elevated, suppressed looking from the outside looking in, that I'm isolated in some way where I'm not. Like I literally can get on with the right resources, I can literally get on a plane and fly somewhere in half a day in most places in the world and start a life. Mm-hmm. Like literally, who could do that in the 1800s and 1900s? Like you'd be on a fucking boat for like 3 months.
Oh yeah.
Like now you can get on a boat for 3 months and sort out fucking visas and banking and send money on the blockchain in 3 seconds. Like we have like so much. I think some people adapt better to change, and some people just don't want things to change.
Yeah.
For them, it's maybe it was their day out or their week, once a week sit down with your best mate because you don't get a chance to do it because well, she's too busy because fucking Rory's on the phone trying to get the hookup.
Well,
right?
That's the other thing I want to preface is that this is a very brief snapshot. That I know absolutely nothing about these people. I'm in zero position to judge them, but if you want to just take the snapshot completely out of context, that's kind of what it triggered in me, was this thought of being whoa, because we do get so stuck in our own thing of what we're doing and what we're putting out into the world that I think it strikes me sometimes. I've always had this feeling of feeling like Jane Goodall with Gorillas in the Mist. Not that other people are gorillas, but that I live amongst them, but I'm not one of them.
Right.
Type of a person.
Right.
And that's not a better thing. It's just I've never felt like I fit in.
Why do you think she was up there? Why do you think she was in the Gorillas in the Mist? Because she doesn't want to be down in the city. She doesn't want to be in the city. She'd rather
those gorillas.
Right.
Than the other city
she'd
gorillas.
rather hang around with those gorillas. She didn't just make a life of it because she loved animals. She loved gorillas, which I'm sure is just a no-brainer. Some people have just got that empathy of oh shit, I need to sort this. I'm good at this. I can do this. I'm going to go and do it. But I guarantee you she liked those gorillas more than people.
But don't you feel sometimes walking around, seeing the way people go about things, not to say that...
I used to. In my 20s I did.
No, not just not to say oh, my way is right and their way is wrong. It's just so different that I've always felt did I miss a class that they were holding somewhere? Or did I get a corrupt version of the download file
you didn't
of
get
how
the
to be
TPS
a human?
report.
What I'm so I can't believe.
Where does that come from then? Why do you it seems to be something that is following you and nagging you. Do you feel like in some way haunted by this black sheep feeling?
No, I don't, and it doesn't even cause me insecurity. It makes me feel like the world is such a huge place, which there is an overwhelm to it, but it's not an insecurity. It makes me feel like two human beings who are made of pretty much the same thing matter-wise, like blood, bones, proteins, carbohydrates. We're made of the same thing. We were born in the same decade. We were, on planet Earth in two countries that speak the same language. And if an alien landed from another world, they would be oh, those are two different species of things.
That's assuming
crazy to me.
No, that's assuming that's what aliens give a shit about.
Okay, I'm not. That's an expression. If you had to explain, if you had
we have
somebody
come for all your water
who had no concept of what it means to be a human being, and you saw me or you, and then picked a random person from out in town or a random person from anywhere, the possibility for not only biodiversity but interspecies diversity is so crazy. So
you're just overwhelmed by it?
Yeah, I'm extremely overwhelmed by the fact that I'm the same species as that girl who was sitting next to me in the cafe and being and Rory and this and that. I'm I don't think I'm the same as that. Not that it's a better or worse thing. It's just how can it be so different?
You are the same as that, but because we have little aliens inside of us driving the ship. We just might be more of a...
It's my gut bacteria.
Yeah, we might have a Tesco's Superstore version compared to somebody who might only have 3 people living there.
This week we learned that your gut bacteria is like its own organism ecosystem.
Yeah.
And it literally is... Well, I already knew it was kind of responsible for your overall health, but I didn't know that it's responsible for the thoughts that you think and your mental health.
Maybe, depending on the amount of Rories you have in your life, you lose them.
Maybe they're like an antibacterial.
Maybe they just get fed up.
You're like a probiotic for me then. Wow. You make my gut bacteria better. Print it, Hallmark. You can have that one for free, bitches.
Oh my God.
No, do you know what I mean? It doesn't ever strike you that someone can be so different from you and you can still be the same species?
No, I think I just put that down to entropy, right? Like some people have not found the cheat codes, but some people have evolved at a different tempo. Even though we're all like sliding into the precipice of the periphery of a black hole somewhere on the other side of the galaxy, some people get there based on, you know, food they eat, the exercise they do. Like you've got to like, logically in my brain, I'm like, okay, if I went in full tempo on like exercise and this and this and this, I know that will change my brain chemistry, right? That would just change who I am as a person. Like I'd be like, oh shit, I've got to go after this, I've known people who've like run property developers. I've businesses where they sell houses. Like I've met very, very intense people, entrepreneurs, like incredible people doing incredible things around the world. Are they different from me? No. Did they focus on certain things more than me? Absolutely. So I just think it comes down to, I think with your star sign, because you're so mystical, like you're almost like you're almost like the guy out of oh God, I can't think.
Looper?
No, the
Minority
one,
Report?
the one with the big sword who looks after the universe and looks out at the universe.
Oh man,
that guy. You know the
from
guy.
The Avengers.
Yeah, the guy from the Avengers. You know, like the Thor, where Thor lives.
Yeah.
What's that place where Thor lives?
Asgard.
So the Asgardian guy who's got the sword at the end, who's like
the Asgard.
The rainbow of the universe is pretty. That's that. You, Biza.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, look at what's happening over there, and look what's happening over there. You're somebody that like people can pull into at 3 a.m. in Alpha Centauri, not like that, Alpha Centauri, and be like, hey fam, do you know what's happening with Rory? Oh, he's trying to get with that girl again. Like you're a conduit to that, and that's fine.
Yeah. I think
what's overwhelming is it's like you're trying to make a decision, and like, am I any more or less informed? Should I think less? Should I adapt more? Should I not question that I want more in life? Like, I think, maybe it's that.
I think I've always been the type of person who I'm extremely attuned to differences. Like, you know, remember with the Scholastic books where you would look at the 2 pages and be like, what's different from this page to this page? I feel like my whole life I'm doing that. But my second step where I probably take it too far is I'm like, then I try to figure out what that means instead of just leaving it and being like, it's just different, Dale, chill. What does it mean that the girl on this side of the book has 4 buttons on her coat and this one has 3? Like, so when I'm doing those comparisons in my mind and I'm noticing things out in the world, I realize I sound like I might be one of those aliens who's just trying to figure out how to human on this planet. Like, I feel like I'm Johnny 5.
Yeah, but those cycles...
Just trying to absorb what it even means to be here and figure it out.
You don't need... Yeah, but those cycles get slower, I think. As you get older, like, those cycles get so slow that you realise that those having the answer to it is only the answer in that moment.
Yeah.
And next year, you'll look at the same coat with the 4 buttons on and be like, that jacket is so unstylish. I can't believe I had an opinion on it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, things just decay.
So even if you, like, 100% fully complete your data set, it becomes obsolete.
I'm writing a post about it this morning. A decade ago, I was at MozFest in London and I got given that Mozilla Firefox phone. It still works today, which is staggering to me that it still works. The battery still works. Phones don't do that today. They just don't. MozFest though. Best thing I ever went to.
Oh my God. No wonder you use Firefox browser.
The most intense open source nerds I've ever met in my life. Like, do you use open source? You should use. They were almost like bordering on like
Like a cult?
Like very much a cult.
Wow.
Very much. But like very cool. And so this morning I've been looking at open badges again for like steam casting and amp steam and stuff, because I'm like, oh shit, all of this time, that decision I made 10 years ago, these open badges are cool. I didn't have an application for it. I was like, oh my God, this will be the future.
Yeah.
And that was a decade ago, and now it is the future. And I'm like,
and you got here.
I got here, but not only did I get here, I got here with my pathway picked up blockchain and immutability, and I want to educate people about this. And now it's like, oh, I can use the badges now.
That's like a perfect segue into like my shirt situation, the new T-shirt that we designed for the store. Like, I have a whole post that I've been finishing off, but the whole, like, that was the whole really sentiment behind it, which is like, you can sometimes go back and revisit things with your latest kit that were incomplete when you did them the first time. Like this design of the very first T-shirt I ever made, I went back and redid it.
This is the thing.
That was a kind of like transformative process for me.
We always bring it up, but Gary is in and around so many people every day, and he's constantly going over the same thing again. But his biggest thing is patience. That's what it really is patience.
Yeah, and if there's anybody who made it popular to preach that you have time instead of you're running out of time, and people, like, he was the one who 5, 6, 7 years ago was like, we're going to see entrepreneurs who are starting businesses at 40 and 50. And that's not a popular sentiment in the startup world. It's like, you're 20? Okay, where's your business? Where's your startup? Oh, you're 30? Sorry, you missed it.
I'm also seeing people at the top end of the food chain, like the sort of 80, 90-year-olds, dying from less diseases.
Yeah.
All right, so the diseases that they are dying from are bloody severe and serious, but like, compared to where that was 40 years ago.
It's more to take a human out these days, I guess.
Well, there's just like so many more things have been discovered and solutions found for it. So I don't know. I guess why we all sprint to it and almost probably sacrifice a bunch of things along the way, because we want to get there because we feel like we don't have time, or we're running out of time, or we read the news and we like the planet hasn't got time. It's like everybody wants to try and cram it in. Like that's some kind of like passport to the next world, that when you rock up at the spaceport of the universe that you did as many things as possible.
Yeah.
You don't get to dictate that. You don't get. You've already won the lottery, and now you want to define how the lottery is spent. Like we don't get that. We don't get that ticket. You know, we're more likely to go into an arcade and pull a ticket out of the Zoltar machine and be turned into fucking big than we are like getting to dictate how it unfolds. We have to look at it as entropy and chaos, and we just have to embrace it and trust the little pilots inside who are pulling all the little you know.
I feel like we should like
communicate to the biomes.
Yeah, we just want
ASMR
to
for
recognize them
biomes
for a second and be like, in the morning, be like,
Biza, that would make a great show.
Thank you, little biomes.
That'd make a great show on
little
Twitch.
Bacteria. Me and my bacteria.
ASMR for digestion.
We are living in a bacteria world.
Okay.
And I am a bacteria girl. Yeah, man. Yeah, I want to not talk to them. I do want to talk to them, but I want to learn more about them.
But also that Temporal Ethics Committee came about, I think, because we watched that program where the boy skips about with his family members who are all superheroes. What's the one we just watched? We just finished it, season 1.
Oh, the Umbrella Academy.
Right. So
yeah.
I mean, I think there's always, you got to remember that certain things like stay with you. Certain things that people said, certain bits of content that you watched, and you apply imagination between that. Like, no disrespect. Like the girls next to us, probably great women, probably doing incredible things with their life.
Astrophysicists.
Could be.
They really could be curing cancer, and
I
just had to hear about Rory for 10 seconds.
Could be.
I totally don't want to be reductionist.
Right, exactly. It's not judgmental. I mean, it's not a judgmental thing, but I truly believe that we all have our own like attraction. You know, like we have our own auras and gravity.
Yeah.
And we're either pushed or pulled away from that.
Yes.
And sometimes you get to the edge of that information, and it's like, I like this person, I like this person, I like this person. She won't shut the fuck up about Rory. I'm out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I truly believe. Is like there's a slingshot of like, oh, it's so good being your friend. It's so being good. You're being friend. You bought a Datsun. You really bought a Datsun.
You have an Android.
You know what I mean? And then it becomes the group of androids against Apple, doesn't it?
But that's okay. So, and that was another facet to this that was really that like kind of showed me more about me, which was that people have the things that they value, like, and that's informed by the way they were raised. It is informed by if they identify with a religion or don't identify with a religion. People, I think, build their own toolkit of ethics. But mine, the only right or wrong that I feel like I see has to do with time. And maybe that's just a temporal thing for me at the moment. But like having this concept of what is temporal ethics, what does it mean to be responsible for your time in a positive way or using your time in the quote unquote right way? What does that mean for me as a human being? Because I can obviously identify what it means when I think I see someone using it the wrong way. So what is the converse like?
Well, that's an interesting question because immutability is completely fucked by temporal ethics, if you think about it. If today I write in a smart contract that I'm going to be a good person and I'm going to give to charity every single day, and then I go back in time before I made that smart contract, am I cheating that future smart contract?
Well, I don't know if I think temporal ethics means I will be a good person over time. I think it means how do I utilize the power of time? And am I being what is my moral code when it comes to my expenditure of time?
See, ethics and morality, they're bloody massive topics.
Sure.
And I don't have all the answers to those.
Yeah.
And I actually also feel in my gut, maybe it's my gut fauna telling me that I shouldn't go into this topic because it'll end up just in a really dark place. I feel like I've never been wanting to be one of those people who is so sycophantically obsessive about one particular thing in life that I just become the person who knows everything about that topic but knows nobody. You know, like there's a
topic
swing.
Becomes like the pillar of their identity as a person.
There's a swing, right? And at some point you can look around and nobody else is swinging next to you.
Oh, wow.
You know, but you're still moving through time.
Sure.
So, and you decided to take the time to actually sit on that. So, like, I'm always fascinated by retroactively looking back at my childhood through Ella, like the way that she gets excited about, like, place. Like, she'll come to a place and the sunshine will be out and it'll just flood back years of memories of, like, oh, this is a safe place to me.
Right.
And they'll go running off into the park because they'll remember that to be a certain place.
Yeah.
And I think we do that all the way through our lives, you know, like we have people we love and see and don't see them for years, but it's just, that's enough for me. Maybe as I get older, I sign off on a bunch of things. Maybe I feel confident that even though I might not have physically achieved things that the system expects as or defines as success, be it numbers or name things after your name or plaques on walls or hospitals named after you. Not everybody in this day and age can define influence. It's not all trackable and mutable. You have no idea if something you said or something you did, an action, a reaction that you did in a place, online, in a piece of video, piece of audio, had a profound effect on somebody sitting on a plane at 33,000 feet looking out of a window at clouds. Like, you have no...
Well, those girls sure as hell don't know that we dedicated an entire podcast episode talking about Rory. Rory doesn't fucking know.
Talking about Rory.
Rory's out there fixing cars and replacing mufflers.
Too many dicks on the dance floor.
I'm just saying, like, it's true, and it's
too many dicks.
You know, I don't know what the series of things that led up to me even sitting there, even noticing what they were talking about. You know, I could have been in my phone or making notes or doing something else. So that is also overwhelming to me, but not in a way that paralyzes me. Just in a way that I kind of almost in a way that like a sunrise is, where you just kind of
maybe you need to work on
all of it.
Maybe you need to work on the BS firewall. Respect, as in like respect that it's happening, but filter the need to have a reaction to it. So what I'm saying is that I use a lot of this like theory of firewalls and stuff because it's actually been really helpful for me to sort my thoughts out over the years. Like it's a bit like filtering. Like sometimes the world can feel like a DOS attack.
Yes.
Like the world can be just like information all at once. It's like shit. Whereas like you can kind of either throttle it or you can slow it down so you still get the information but at a pace that suits you. So I kind of use a lot of the methodologies of the way that technology works and apply them to my day-to-day, year-to-year.
Right.
Everything. Friendships, relationships, work, career, the lot. And I think when I know for a fact in my 20s I had none of that. I was into everything. Somebody said, let's do this. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, because you have like unlimited
You
energy.
assume you do.
Well, no, but you have the energy to feel like you do. Meaning like, when
or
you're in your 20s.
is it that we've just not had all the toxins in our bodies yet because we've only been around for X amount of years?
Maybe our bacterias were still like young and happy.
Yeah, exactly. There's a decay from how much energy you expel in the universe. Like it's like that robots things and everything we watched on Netflix where that woman
Love, Death and Robots.
Yeah, the woman broke her arm for momentum.
I know.
Right? So she's in space.
I've done that so many times on a metaphysical level.
Right, she's in space and she needs momentum, so she has to cause a reaction by
snapping her frozen arm off and throwing it in the opposite direction.
To get the momentum.
Yeah.
So in some ways, that's life.
So maybe we're all just like temporal amputees. Is what you're saying.
I wasn't. I really wasn't saying that.
No, I get you.
No.
I think
but
when
in a way, I guess so.
You don't when you feel like you have an abundance, it's like it's like how the market determines value. When there's an abundance of something, it usually doesn't feel valuable. So energy when you're a kid, or time when you're a kid, because there's a feeling of abundance there.
But people buy into the validation of abundance, right? If it's like if a few people say it's abundant, they're like, whatever, maybe. But if hundreds of people start doing it, if lots of people start, it's a bit like mobile phones and iPads. Like all the people that were like, I'll never have an iPad, and now they've got them in the kitchen using it for cooking.
Yeah,
they don't need it.
Yeah,
it's just that everybody else has got one.
Well, yeah, and also like your kids didn't really want to take the time to figure out what you really wanted. It was an easier Christmas present.
Also, I don't understand this notion of abundance when 40% of the food in New York City is wasted. Like we can't talk about everything. And so there's a speculation abundance as well.
That's true.
That people put out.
We have more abundance than ever before, but we are operating in a scarcity mindset about it.
Yes.
But when you're a kid, like going back to that example, when you're a kid, you just have that energy. It's just there, and it's there from when you wake up in the morning to when you go to sleep. You have the mental energy, the dexterity. Like when I was younger, I used to say, "Oh, I wish there was more time in the day." Now I wish I had more energy to use that time in the day, because it's not about adding more hours for me. It's about I get to a point where I'm just staring at my screen and my brain can't do anymore. And that runs out before the hours in the day run out.
Yeah, no, I hear
sure.
You. I hear you.
So, and I think that's why we're so obsessed with like, you super deep dived into Notion this week, into that little app.
Yeah.
And like reorganizing things, having files in a place where you know where they are. That stuff has absolutely no value to when you're younger, because you have the energy to be wasteful with your energy. I don't have the energy to be wasteful or flippant with my energy anymore. I like when you notice how you drive in your car when you're past empty and the little light is on. You drive a lot different than when you have a full tank of gas.
That's true.
Like you're pedal to the metal. You just like, let's go. When you're driving with not so much gas and you're on your way to the gas station, you're taking turns real easy.
Yeah, but you're also speculating
coasting.
that maybe the people who designed it put a little bit extra in there. Like, and I think people treat the planet like that.
Yeah.
I mean, going back to that speculation economy. When you're a kid and you get taken to a sweet shop and all you see is rows and rows and rows of sweets, you never think that you're ever going to run out of sweets.
Yeah.
And also your size as well. Your size in relationship to, holy shit, this is like, there'll never not be sweets.
Well, do you ever go back to a place that you were
of course.
when you were
Of course.
little, and you're like, this is so much smaller than I remember.
Yeah.
Like the house you grew up in, like.
I used to go to a magic shop every Saturday.
Yeah.
My dad used to drop me down there, and the guy was the freakiest guy. Nowadays, he would have probably had a child protection order on him or something. But that place, I felt like
Wonka's factory.
I felt like that would never change.
Yeah.
Like I felt like that guy would never leave. He would never die.
Yeah.
His wife will always be upstairs and always be the voice of the woman of his wife upstairs. I will never see her face.
Yeah.
She will always
Those
be
characters.
there. Like I actually felt like he was almost like sitting there waiting for me, and then like in cryostatus
and
until I opened the door again.
Until you came back, yeah.
You know,
like Toy Story.
Like, and every week he would have something new for me, and I felt like he was designed into my life in some way. Like I would walk in and say, you know, like, what are we? He'd be like, what are you interested in this week? And let me show you some of this. And what was interesting about my relationship with this guy is that he loved magic and magic so much he was almost indirectly looking for people to carry that on. Yeah. But you were a customer. But he had to run a business.
But the prospect of it, like, it probably really excited him.
Yeah.
He was showing that.
He didn't have children. And it was obvious to me that he didn't. It wasn't obvious to me, but it felt like he didn't have children. So it's kind of weird that, you know, he'd have this book and he'd give me this book and, you know, have a read of it while you're away. And I'd go in there with £5 that my dad had palmed me off with, you know, go and get something, go and use your time in some way. Yeah. Right? You know, go into that shop and there were those glass cases in front of it, and I would cascade my eyes over it looking at like, oh, maybe I should get the blood one, or maybe I should get like the hand cutter. And he would demo some things and show me how like to get the most value out of that object. Mm-hmm. The money wasn't even a thing.
But that's an interesting exchange too, because your dad, in a sense, paid for his own time.
Exactly.
By like, you know, getting you to go do something. Yeah. So like, you know, growing up around New York City, that phrase of like time is money is like the really big, and I didn't ever understand it. I always just felt somebody would say that to rush you along, being like you're wasting my time. Right. But the flip side of it is that once you have money, you can buy time back. You can hire people to do things for you that are taking time away from you. And when you start seeing currency, and then add crypto on as another layer on top of that, when you start seeing crypto and currency as a way to buy and stretch your time or your energy or your effort, which are all multipliers of time, that's why it's a powerful thing.
Maybe all these places that we frequent and hang around in where normally we wouldn't never track that time, either gaming or blogging or art or whatever, once all of those things have got some kind of trackability to them, you know, like Twitch streamers are on there for hours and hours on end. Like there's hours of content, there's video there, you could run Dr. Disrespect's video library through an AI sentiment engine and be like, tell me about this person.
Yeah, you could build another Dr. Disrespect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but that for the first time has a currency that can be used as data, which can then inform us as human beings. Like this is not necessarily this is what a rounded human being does, but instead of having this melancholy thing about Shakespeare and like, well, he wrote all these books and it was like profound, and you know, he's an 11-year-old kid and he knew English better than anybody in the class and yada yada yada. We've got this imagery, beautiful imagery about who our successful people are. Or what it is to be human, or what it is to have like authority over language. Right. Well, won't it be interesting, instead of like the two girls sitting up next to us, that in their news feed or their Facebook feed, there'll be almost like, not measurements, but like there'll be mood and sentiment and, you know, artificial intelligence that are like, you know, maybe you should do these things. These things will improve your health or your mental fitness, or, you know. Yeah. And so those conversations will probably just ebb away naturally.
It's almost like a time broker.
Right.
Like the way that a stockbroker or a financial advisor would tell you, okay, hey, put a little bit of your money here. This is a good idea, or whatever.
But trust is important.
With time, though.
But trust is important in those realms. My dad used to push me through the door into that shop and be like, I'll be back. Yeah. Like, he's trusting that the guy's not going to, like, do me in. Yeah. Like, or, you know, like... Yeah. And he didn't know him. Yeah. So there's different things happening at different times. Now we're overwhelmed with the sheer frequency of this stuff. Maybe it's just that for us. Maybe it's just that there's so many attributes, so much metadata to life now.
Well, that's the problem. And then once people start, or engines start suggesting where I spend my time, I'm going to be suspicious of that, because who's paying for that engine to tell me to go over here and do this thing? Who does that benefit? Who stands to make money off of the, the extra 20 minutes I'm going to spend in this shop over this shop, or going out here? Like the only things that I find that benefit me, that don't have an agenda behind them, are nature, spending time outside, cooking, making things with my hands. Like, it's going to be, I don't know, I think it's going to be really interesting once those sentiment engines come online and start telling you where to spend your time. Because I feel like when you land on planet Earth, you're given this allotment of time, but also you don't know how much it is, but you have some. And then everything in life that we do is just moving it around on different exchanges. And getting a little back in the time in the form of money. I mean, the fact that I can be paid for a job and then go down and to the shop and buy eggs means that I didn't have to raise a chicken. That saves me a lot of time. I didn't have to raise, feed, and house a chicken in order to get those eggs. So I kind of run around in life just exchanging time in different ways, on different types of exchanges with people, for entertainment, for sustenance, food, money, all the things that we participate in. And I think a lot, like you're saying, with this temporal ethics, is maybe a philosophy of just looking at those things and making sure that the balance sheets add up. If you're going to bring it back to the money.
Get the balance right, as Depeche Mode said.
Yeah. I don't know. It just was a whole way that my brain kind of fell into that hole. And then, not, like I said, not in a negative or panicked or depressed way. It was just a different lens. That's the cool thing I think about being alive, is you can go to a shop and then walk out with
I think there is a frustration with frequency, right? I think the more you're privy to things in life, the more you like the breads, right? We literally went from changing our whole food cycles to let's deep dive bread. Let's find out about bread. How does it react? What is ghee, and what is imitation ghee, and where do the source of the raw materials come from for that? How is that sustain? Once you start drilling down into things in life, there's a frequency that your brain almost adopts. It's okay, now I know about breads, but you start applying it to everything. Yeah,
because your brain wants to continue that pattern, I think, of learning. That's why when they say that motion begets motion, an object in motion will stay in motion, an object at rest will stay at rest. It's totally the same thing with your body, your brain, everything. If you activate a certain part of your brain and then you decide to close the book on that, your brain is left being okay, what now? What next? Waiting for that next source of stimuli.
Maybe the girls opposite, the reason why they were soundboarding that out to the other person is that they were just hoping that the other person would have another pathway for them.
Maybe.
Instead of it just being why tell somebody that sort of stuff?
Well, I think there's a lot of reasons. I agree. I think that people do use... I use that as a ENTP.
Yeah.
That's part of the way I process the world, is through conversations like this.
Signal processing.
Because there's something... When I have to translate my thoughts, which are just abstract shapes and pictures, really, into the structure of a human language that I know that you can understand, there's a transformation there that helps me sort it for my own brain. So me actually taking my thoughts and putting them into words means that I have to go through this. This is over here, this is over here, this is over here, and then I can go back and refile that in my own mind. But I can't do that unless I outwardly express it through human language. Otherwise, it's just thoughts and shapes, and it's just swirling around up there. So that's part of how that's how part of my file system, how I can organize. And a lot of times I walk away from a conversation being yeah, I do feel that way about that. Agreeing with myself and being oh, I found something new there that I would not have found on my own. In the case of Rory, however, I think people like talking about how they're desirable to other people. And I think that is a soothing a self-assuring thing that people do, which is like, you know, people do it in the startup community. Oh, you know, we got this much money from this VC over here. We got this and that. It's like, I think people maybe need to hear themselves, encourage themselves in order to feel like that's something that they need. Maybe they're not getting it from someplace else in their life.
Well, I mean, if you've missed out on roller skating, skateboarding and breakdancing, I can understand people wanting to try and find some level of cool in their lives. I understand
that. So that's it. Cool ended after 1988.
Absolutely.
And then after that.
But again, it's like generational. It's like if you say to somebody 80s was the best, and it's like, no, the 60s was the best. Like everybody, and again, it's that time period. And I think there is a sentimentality in feeling that you've lived out the best version that you could in that time frame.
Well, maybe the reason why people are so nostalgic and so favorable about the time that they grew up in is because that was the peak of when they had that abundance mentality of energy and time.
Maybe.
And so everything feels like it's okay. Like everything feels like it's going to be fine. You know, when my parents probably were, you know, going through their lives in the 80s, they were like, dang, I wish I could go back. Everything's so fucked now.
Yeah. Well, Stranger Things has proved that. If you think about it, Stranger Things on Netflix with the music and the arcades and the fashion and the styling, it's those are the most powerful things on planet Earth, is the legacy and storytelling of. And I think these days, maybe your frustration, definitely mine, is that I need more depth.
Well, it's very, as somebody who lived through it, you can verify. Like if we were to literally go back in time, or if we were to go to an alien race's museum of the human culture and go back to their 80s exhibit, you'd be like, that's bullshit. That didn't happen. It wasn't like that. That shade of green is wrong. Like, because you were there and you have so much more articulate data than somebody who's just seeing it from the other side and then just gleaming an idea, a sense of it.
I remember holding my white Nikes with the red flash like I'd found the fucking golden fleece.
I'm telling you. It really, okay, all of that said, and I'm fully playing into the fact that I'm biased, and it is nostalgia because everything did feel abundant back then because I was young, but it really was the fucking best. I feel your Fortnite can't touch the childhood that we had. Like, you can't.
But then...
We played outside with sticks and rocks, and we got cuts on our knees, bitches, and it was great.
But maybe that's the closest that some people who work in those industries feel that they can do now. Do you know what I mean? Like, the tempo and the frequency of life has gotten to such a point that it's like, you know, I lived through the 80s, but I got good at the game development. They end up falling into being a designer or illustrator or whatever. They're earning $100,000 a year. And so they're putting their play and their fun into their work. And in some ways, maybe they are a more in sync, more in frequency human if they're looking at the world and the state of the world and they're concerned about their kids going out into it. Maybe the Fortnite safe realm is worth investing their legacy into, because they'll never get back to that place. They'll never be able to create that environment again.
Yeah.
Maybe some people are just really good at jettisoning legacy and stepping forward into the new. And maybe that's not a bad thing.
Or are they running from something behind? Like,
and I
ran so far away.
I couldn't get away.
I don't know. I do think that nostalgia is like the drug of the masses. I partake in it from time to time. Those feels that you get, like, from the styling of something, like the reason why retrowave I think is so huge right now, or Stranger Things, is like, I just want to feel like it did when it was great and everything, you know. Or it's like we'll sit and watch an old Tom Hanks movie when Tom Hanks is like, you know, his house is falling apart, but it's like, okay, because they're all analog problems, and he's, you know, he didn't get his Twitter account hacked. You know, that's a nice feeling for me to go back to those times.
Oh man.
So, I don't know, but maybe that's not a good use of my time.
Well, this was a good use of our time. I enjoyed this.
I did too.
I expected it to be a clusterfuck because it started off like...
Well, it started out with you WD-40ing your chair.
Yeah, but it's real.
But it's real.
It's real. Everybody's wanting authentic. I think that's one of the things that frustrates me, is that hardware and machines and graphics and lenses and cameras get in the way of actually being human sometimes. Like, there's so many things I see where people are like, should I get this camera? Should I swap it for this? Well, really, they want an opinion about a style choice rather than a substance choice. And that frustrates me because I know what substance is to me because I've lived through it. But
and I also think that the
I'm very precious of maintaining that as well, if I think about it.
Yeah, but I think the companies have, as a marketing ploy, set up this camera is the barrier to entry to be this. That's why people are so obsessed with that. Because,
maybe.
Millions of dollars has gone into putting out the vibe of, well, you need this camera to be a real YouTube vlogger. Or whatever. But, get the WD-40 out. I mean, let's go. We got a bird outside. He's just doing his own damn thing.
Way more than WD-40.
Maybe he does need some WD-40.
He needs something.
But I really did enjoy this type of talk. It reminded me of the types of talks we used to have on Blab.
I used to have talks like this when I was 12 on the bank of some grass on a field and just talk about life and what I was going to do with it, and then did none of it.
Wow.
Happy times.
Positively negative. We had to bring it back there. It was a lot. It was too much positive maybe for one podcast.
What are you trying to say?
I like you. And I like your gut bacteria.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. You can support the show by heading to anchor.fm/positive and clicking the support this podcast button, or by checking out any of this week's sponsors.
Subscribe to Positively Negative wherever you listen to podcasts, and you can hang out with us on Discord by visiting smarturl.it/talkback.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Yay! Bye!